A coworker asked me for help but ended up closing the door on me. We work for transit. My coworker and I are setting up our buses for our trips today. She asked me for help with her bus. I gave her my advice. I don't get out the bus to help physically, and a few minutes later I see it still hasn't helped, so I tell her something else. But she doesn't respond, just closes the door on me. We've had positive interactions before, but this just seemed really negative. Do you see me doing anything that could offend her, or am I just overthinking this?
Ida, for not taking into account my brother's wishes for our wedding date. My partner 38F and I 39M booked a venue for our wedding party in 1.5 years, a weekend at the end of June 2027. My brother is complaining it might not work for his kids, as it might be during exam period or their internship. Kids will be 21, 19 and 17 in 2027. The context: we live in Germany, are French, and want to celebrate our wedding in France. My brother and the rest of my family live in the north of France, but we decided for a venue in the south of France, somewhat close to my partner's family, because the region is nicer than the north of France, and more chance of sun, as we want a summer vibe for our party, as there is a pool, beach volley, ball field, etc. The drive from my brother's to the venue is around 9 hours. For his kids, my brothers would have preferred a date in July-August, but the venue's price takes a 50% increase for that period, or during one of the long weekend of early May, but then more risk of chilly weather, rain. I would be sad if some of my nieces and nephews can't make it. I love them, but I can't help to feel annoyed at my brother for taking me on a guilt trip over this. I feel this our big day. We want to plan something that feels like us and not have to cater to others' needs, and we were hoping our closest ones would be happy for us instead of complaining. Or Ida for not taking his needs into consideration.
Ada for being annoyed with brother who's booked a wedding 3-4 weeks before mine. I'm feeling pissed off with my brother for booking his wedding just 3 to 4 weeks before mine. My partner and I live in Sydney but decided to get married back in the UK next year to make things easier for friends and family. We've been planning it for over 2 years, invites went out months ago, and we're even covering accommodation for most of the family because it's included with our venue. My brother and his partner are set to travel around America and Asia for 6 months next year. When we were planning our wedding, we checked with him to make sure he could make it. We even moved our date by 2 weeks to fit around his plans. He's doing 3 months in America, home for a bit, and then the rest in Asia. Then out of nowhere a month or two ago, we got a FaceTime from him and his partner. They were with other family members and announced out of nowhere that they'd just gotten engaged and decided to get married a few weeks before our wedding. Their reason was that since they'll be in America, they wanted to do it in Vegas because it's convenient. I understand that, but I'm literally flying across the world to make things convenient for everyone else. He's also said that people don't have to come if they don't want to, which puts me and the rest of the family in a really awkward. Of course we'd want to be there. I can't help feeling he's being incredibly selfish and unfair. He's not just creating difficulties for himself, he's creating them for the whole family. His wedding is only 4 weeks before mine, and on top of that, we'll be flying home early to organize everything and do the hen and stag parties. I'm also frustrated that other family members haven't said much because they don't want to get involved.
Ida for forcing my group mate to write his part himself and make us late in submitting the project. I do pretty well in school, if it matters. I am in junior high school and I'm trying my best to keep my grades as good as they are right now. And I have a classmate named Braxton, let's just say his name is Braxton, but I am paired up with him for science, and this is a high-graded product task essay where we have to write about the difference between photosynthesis and cellular reproduction, if that matters. I got the cellular reproduction part and he got the photosynthesis, and I kept reminding him to do his part, and he keeps saying that he will, but whenever I check, he hasn't updated our file. And on the final day before the day of the submission, I told him if he wouldn't do it, then I'd report him for having no contribution whatsoever. And so the next day, he finally updated the file, but he forgot to delete the AI generation text above, and so during homeroom, I got mad at him and forced him to write his own report or I won't let us submit, and didn't take no for an answer. Note, I think I was being an asshole here because I think I was being too mean and practically forced him to write it. Note 2, I also think I was the asshole because I did this in front of our classmates and embarrassed him. And then eventually he finished 2 days later and we submitted late, giving us a slight deduction in our score. Maybe I should have just accepted the ISA, instead of threatening him and getting mad, and I also made us late in submitting, so Ida,
Ita for not texting continuously to a friend who I think wanted to be more than friends. This guy was a good friend of mine, but recently I felt he liked me because he once said that I'm more important to him and he prioritized me over his other friends. Also, he asked me to go out with him. I brushed it off and acted like a fool for understanding what he really meant. Since then I have been avoiding his texts, sending him late replies so that he can figure out that I don't like him romantically and eventually stop so that we can keep our friendship. But now he has become distant. I am happy that he figured it out, but now I don't think he wants to be friends with me anymore. I didn't want any awkwardness between us, that's why I did all that. Ita?
Am I wrong for still not apologizing for what I said at Thanksgiving dinner? My family hates me and I really needed advice. Okay. Hi, so I don't really post on Reddit. I am mainly just a lurker for school and study advice, but I'm honestly at such a loss for what to do that I need help. This story happened 2 weeks ago at Thanksgiving dinner, but some of my family is still pissed at me for it. So for background, I am a 26-year-old woman in my second year of med school who just got engaged to my fiance, who is a 28-year-old man, Chris. He is in his second year of residency. About a week before Thanksgiving he proposed. He proposed with his grandmother's old engagement ring. Nothing big or fancy, I love it. He promised that once he finished his residency and started making good money, he would buy me a new one, but I honestly don't even care. Anyway, so my birthday was a few weeks before Thanksgiving, November 4th, and my cousin 25-year girl Catherine bought me a massive pair of diamond earrings. However, she forgot to take the tag off and I saw that they were from Shein. Also, they were obviously plastic, but she claimed they were real diamond. That's fine. I really didn't care. I only wear one pair of earrings. Anyways, so I just said thank you, hugged her, and then moved on. Anyways, at Thanksgiving, I was showing off my ring to the entire family. I come from an extremely wealthy family and they don't like Chris because they don't think he makes enough, and also he just is very different from them. Also, they think he influences my college major switch econ and finance to bio, psych, neuroscience, which no, I just found my passion. Anyways, so before dinner on Thanksgiving I was showing my ring to my grandmother and Catherine came over and was like, "Where's the diamond? I can't even see it." Chris was right there and he squeezed my hand because he knows how worked up I'll get. But I just pointed to the diamond and said, it's right there." My aunt just laughed and was like, "I need my glasses to see that." I just brushed it off because I really try to avoid confrontation, but it still pissed me off. They're always nagging on him and criticizing him just because he's not in business like all of them. Anyways, we all sat down at dinner and after dessert had been served we were all just sitting around, and Catherine again said, "I have a friend I want to introduce you to. He is a real man who will actually treat you right and spoil you like you deserve. Like honestly, even I got you a bigger set of diamonds than some people." And then she laughed. My aunt laughed along with her, but everyone else kind of just looked stunned. Chris tried to just squeeze my hand again because he knows me so well, but honestly, I was so done. I looked across the table at her and said, "Well, at least it's a real diamond, unlike the 50-cent pieces of trash you got me for my birthday." Literally everyone was stunned silent. She got up and left crying. My aunt yelled at me, telling me that I was being materialistic because my cousin had saved up all of her allowance to buy those earrings for me and that I was being ungrateful. My aunt, uncle, and cousin left dinner. As we were doing the dishes, my mom told me that even though they were being annoying, I should not have overreacted, just they were purposely antagonizing me and him and I just need to be the more mature person. On the drive home, I cried to Chris, telling him I was sorry for causing a scene but that it made me so annoyed how they always treated him. I asked him if he thought I was in the wrong and he told me that while he appreciates me standing up for him, he had thick skin and he can take it. He said he doesn't really care what they think about him, but he doesn't want me blowing up my relationship with my family just to defend him. Anyways, now my cousin and aunt won't talk to me, even though it's been over 2 weeks and even though I'm still pissed at them. I really do miss my cousin. She was one of my best friends. My aunt sent me a long text, saying they were hurt and offended, and my attack on Catherine was obviously because I looked down on her for dropping out of college and living at when I'm going to be a doctor. They also said they would be ready to talk again once I apologize. At first I felt like I was justified in my outburst, but seeing how hurt they are, I now feel really guilty. I didn't mean to hurt Catherine's feelings, I just wanted to defend Chris, but now I see how rude what I said was and feel so embarrassed. Part of me still feels they are being dramatic because they always blow stuff out of proportion, but my mom and Chris are telling me to apologize and be the bigger person. I would usually be more stubborn if it was just like an acquaintance, but I miss my family too much. So, yeah. I guess, what do you guys think? Should I just suck it up and apologize? I just feel like I can't like this keep happening. So yeah, am I in the wrong?
ITA for backing out mid-commission. I 18F have a passion for telling stories and creating art. I was writing a story on Wattpad when a commissioner, or so I think is a commissioner, asked me if they could turn my story into a comic. I reached out to them on Instagram to chat with them. They told me that I'd have to pay $120 per page. With my first chapter of the story, it would be 10 pages, so $1,200. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into until my dad pointed it out that I didn't have enough money to pay for how many chapters my story has. I tried to reach out to the commissioner to tell them that I didn't want to do it anymore, but they were already on the first page I paid them for, which, like I said, is $120. I haven't heard back from them for a while, until today. I once again told them that I didn't want to do the commissions anymore. They told me that I had agreed to do 10 pages, and threatened legal action. I showed the conversation to my dad, and he noticed how the page they showed me didn't even look like a full page. I also noticed how the characters looked nothing like how they did in the show, unlike their other works. He also told me they can't really do anything, so I blocked the user. Did I do the right thing? ITA for buying my partner's cousin a Christmas thank you present. When looking for Christmas presents for my girlfriend, I had an idea of something I wanted to do. It involved being quite artistic and creative, which I am not. So last month, when my girlfriend's family met up for a small get-together, I asked her 16-year-old kid who was doing an art qualification if she'd help. I've been with my girlfriend for 4 years, so I've known her family for a while, and her cousin has joined us on days out, meals out, etc., so we get on well. She agreed to help and said she'd have the gift ready for the next family catch-up before Christmas. That was this weekend, and it will be the last time the entire family get together until next year, so we all exchanged Christmas presents. As a thank you for her cousin helping, I bought her a small gift which I gave to her at the get-together. Some of the other family members said it was weird that I bought something for her and that I shouldn't have done it. Even after explaining why, they still said it was suspicious. I pointed out there's nothing wrong with what I've done, but they wouldn't back down on claiming I was wrong for doing it. ITA for buying her a Christmas thank you present.
ITA for telling my classmate he stinks. Our seating arrangements got changed like 2 weeks ago, and I got sat next to this kid, Joseph, and he's a really cool guy, nothing against him, but he smells really bad, especially in the armpit area. I didn't notice how bad he smelled until I dropped my pen and had to pick it up under Joseph's seat, and I almost saw the light when I took a small involuntary sniff. I didn't want to tell him that he reeked of sweat because it might embarrass him, so I bared it for the next 2 weeks, but this Thursday, I really couldn't take it anymore. It was after PE and everybody was fixing up, so that meant everybody was sweaty, and also that meant Joseph was at his 100 stink I'm sorry, and sitting next to him almost killed me, because he didn't even bother to change his shirt. So before the next teacher could come in, I chased him outside and tried to talk to him privately. The exact conversation: Joseph, what did you want to tell me? Hey man, I'm sorry if this sounds direct, but you stink. I think you could use some deodorant. Now after that, we just stood in silence and apologized to each other and then went to the cafeteria in silence.
ITA for being insensitive and telling my sister she needs mental health. I 42F recently found out I was pregnant. I have 3 children, 24, 20 and 17. When I announced it to my family, my sister 35 laughed at me and told me I was starting all over, and here she was trying to get pregnant for years and I'm rubbing in her face. She even made a joke how I'm too old for a newborn and should just give her a baby. This joke was a joke, but way too far. This ticked me off, and I told her I wasn't rubbing anything in her face and that she needed to quit this crazy shit, or get mental help. She got angry and said I basically was, and she couldn't believe I said that, and that I knew how upset she was by her trouble with fertility. My parents took her side and I ended up leaving my family's house. I had a typo mental help.
Ita for telling my girlfriend I won't play with her until she learns to accept losing. I'm an experienced chess player, playing this game for as long as I can remember, probably since I was 4 or 5 years old. My extended family loved chess, so I grew up in an environment where I could very easily learn and practice it. My current rating is 1950. My girlfriend is at a lower intermediate level. She learned chess from me during the lockdown, but then took a long break. She started playing regularly a couple of months ago. She mostly plays online against opponents at her level, but she plays with me almost daily on a physical board. The problem for her is, I always win. When she was a beginner, I used to give her wins and tips to help her build the concepts, but now I don't do that. I believe she should play fairly now, and chess is a game that requires focus, time, and mental effort. Playing it just to give away wins seems too much. However, she gets mildly annoyed. Yesterday, when I was clearly winning, she flipped the board in anger. It wasn't as a joke, she was serious. This really pissed me, felt disrespected. So I boldly told her to better stick to online play until she starts accepting losses like an adult and handles the game maturely. Ita. She got upset.
Ida for asking my boyfriend for a reward. Hi, so I am in my last year of uni and this semester is packed with assignments. I recently had 3 assignments that had to be done in I had 1 week, so to get some motivation, I asked my boyfriend if I could get something if I passed those 3 assignments. He said yes and asked what I wanted. I told him I didn't really care what he gave me, it's just that the knowledge I'm going to get something that motivates me. It gave me something to work for, and he later suggested spa. I asked him if he was sure, since spa can be quite pricey sometimes. I hadn't even thought about spa but felt really grateful for the price and the motivation given. Now my friend says I'm using my boyfriend. I have an exam coming up, that I haven't passed numerous times, so I told her I thought about getting myself something. I also told my boyfriend, and he immediately asked if I had any ideas, as if he intended to get me something himself. I told my friend this and she immediately said that she would have understood if I got the spa as a reward for this exam, not the other 3 assignments that was easier to study to. Now I feel bad about the spa thing as a reward for those 3 assignments. Am I wrong for even considering the spa thing after he mentioned it? Am I the asshole?
Update Ida for telling my wife she was being difficult due to a seating issue at the restaurant. Last post. Hi, I had received a judgment on my post which made me reevaluate how I behaved then. On Sunday we were going to go out again. I took care of the reservation at a nice restaurant and stressed that we really need a window table. When we got there, we had to wait a few minutes but we got a window table. My wife joked that we got a good seat without any difficulties. I'm not 100 about this, but it seemed that comment of mine was still on her mind, so I took that opportunity to apologize again for my remark. She said it was all good. She knew and liked that I was easygoing, but she just liked looking outside as well while eating. It was weirdly important to her. We had a great night. Thanks to all those who commented on my last post, it gave me some good insight.
Ida for not telling my friend I was in town. So last night, on a sudden impulse, my family and I 23F drove to the city where I went to college to see this year's Christmas market. It's like 1.5 hour drive. I still have some now long distance friends in the area who I talk to almost regularly, and we even managed to meet up a few times this year. I moved to another city 100 kilometers away after college, but since I was with my family and we weren't there for more than 3 hours, I didn't tell my friends about it. However, one of them 23F from that area responded to my Instagram story with a somewhat passive-aggressive message asking why I didn't tell them I was near them, something along the lines of I don't even have anything to say to you right now, and I feel like they have been kinda ignoring me ever since, like they haven't even opened my response explaining the situation yet. This bothers me so much because we're both chronically online, so we're always sending each other stuff on multiple platforms back and forth, and ever since last night they've been ignoring me everywhere. I do feel guilty for all of it, but I genuinely wanted to just spend some time with my parents, and I was also kinda low on energy because I was working yesterday, so we went straight from work to the market. What do you think? Update 1512. Thank you for all the replies. So they have finally seen the silly TikToks that I've been sending all day, but I got no response and my Instagram message still sits unopened. Lol. This feels even more like a high school drama every day. At this point I'm not even confused or hurt, just annoyed because I thought we're more mature than this.
Ida for telling my longtime coworker she can't keep using me as her fallback ride anymore. I'm a 23-year-old female and have worked at the same small community center for about 7 years. One of my coworkers, Lena by name, lives fairly close to me. We aren't close friends, but we get along at work. About a year ago, her old car died, and while she saved up for a replacement, she asked if I could give her rides sometimes. I didn't mind because it was on my way, and I assumed it would be for a few weeks. But the continuous rides turned into a routine where she'd text me almost every morning asking if I could swing by. She did eventually buy a used car, but she kept defaulting to me saying her car makes weird noises, or she's afraid it'll stall, or she doesn't want to risk it in rain, etc. None of these were emergencies. It always felt like she just wanted to be driven always. At first I went along with it because I didn't want to come off as rude. But over the last few months, the constant detours started making me late to my own morning errands before work. She sometimes left me waiting in her driveway for 5 or 10 minutes while she's getting ready, which made the whole thing even more stressful. Last week I finally told her as gently as I could that I wouldn't be able to drive her regularly anymore. I explained that it was making my mornings rushed and that it wasn't sustainable long term. I said I could still help in true emergencies, but she really needed to rely on her own car or use public transportation. She got quiet and said she felt abandoned and that she thought we had an understanding. Later that day she looked upset and avoided me. Another co-worker told me Lena said she didn't realize I was keeping score. I honestly don't think I was harsh. I didn't mention all the times she made me late or left me waiting in my car. I only said I needed my mornings back. But now I'm worried I made her feel embarrassed. So, Ida for drawing a line after letting it go on for so long?
Ida for telling a friend it's his fault that his rental car is damaged. I went on group trip over the weekend. One of my friends, Jimmy, rents a car with a debit card, declines rental insurance, and didn't inspect car I pick up. During the course of the trip, he allows another friend, Greg, to drive the car. They were the only 2 drivers. Upon rental return, the staff noticed the car has damages on the side. Jimmy protests it wasn't him and that it probably was Greg. Greg only drove the car once, and the one time he drove, I was the passenger, so as a witness, I didn't see or recall Greg hitting anything. Greg also doesn't recall he hit anything. My stance is because Jimmy rented the car without insurance and willingly allows Greg to drive, he's ultimately responsible. If there was clear, conclusive evidence that Greg actually did do the damage, I would think differently. When I told Jimmy this, he got upset at my conclusion and thinks I'm a shitty friend.
I've accepted I'll never fully trust anyone again. After being betrayed, I've come to accept that I'll never fully trust anyone again. Not in a pessimistic way, just realistic. Everyone has a price or a breaking point. Given the right circumstances, anyone can hurt you. That's not cynicism. That's just how people work. So I stopped seeing this as my problem to fix. I stopped trying to force myself to be vulnerable and open like I used to be. I started seeing it as wisdom instead of damage. But I don't know if that's actually healing or if I'm just giving up on connection entirely and calling it growth. People say trust is necessary for relationships, that you can't have real intimacy without it. But what if you've learned the hard way that trust is just setting yourself up for disappointment? Is protecting yourself the same as closing yourself off? Or is there a difference between being guarded and being smart? I was sitting outside last night with a drink thinking about whether I've gotten stronger or just harder, and I genuinely don't know the answer. Is accepting that people will let you down a form of maturity, or is it just a way to avoid ever being hurt again by never letting anyone close enough to matter?
A list of things my ex did and I still stayed. I 25F was with my ex for 4 years, but I have never actually written down and told someone about all the things she had done during our relationship. So, for all the random people on the internet, here is a list of everything my ex did while we were together. Some things are obviously bigger than others. Feel free to judge me, I already know. Lied about being a virgin, lied about getting SA'd, was in love with her best friend, needed me to be available 24/7 or else she would have a panic attack, sexted other people, would tell me to ask my parents for more money. My family is like in the low working class. We ain't got money, not a giver in bed. Chose GTARP over me. Terrible with finances to the point that it affected my own credit score. Asked to be in a poly relationship, would never want to go out to do things with me. Lies constantly. Flirted with my friends, had refused to get me pads from the grocery store. Made me move to their hometown and live in an apartment by myself for a year. I had asked for her to move in several times. Left me alone on Halloween, my favorite holiday. She was at home playing video games, and yes, she did have a car and I was a 15-minute drive away. I was also told I could not go over to her house either, so I believe they only made me finish in bed once. 4-year relationship. BTW didn't know how to clean, bad hygiene, but somehow also sensitive to smell. I cannot take simple directions. Cocky sore winner cried and begged for me to not leave them after I caught her lying. Happened quite a few times. Distanced me from my dad. Had asked me to play games with her and her friends and then would ditch me in the game to go play with her friends. Couldn't comfort me when I was upset and would instead need to be comforted. Did do things to me in bed that I did not consent to. If I remember more, might update it. Ita for ignoring my friend for this. So someone I would have considered a close friend of mine from work is leaving the state soon for a trip abroad. His last weekend at the job domes up. As I'm working, one of the other co-workers comes up to me talking about this party outing my friend had the previous day celebrating his departure from the company, which everyone went to. Yet I'm finding out the next day. I typically don't trip about no invites, but I won't lie, I felt some way about this one. So I've been pretty much ignoring my friends since then without explanation. When I get even the slight vibe that I'm not wanted somewhere, I don't ask, I don't inquire, confront, I fall the fuck back and keep it pushing. He's tried reaching out a few times asking if I'm good, even tried calling yesterday. The most he got out of me was an I'm working RN when he tried calling, which TBF I was. I'm not only looking at him funny, I'm looking at some of my other co-workers funny that I was also cool with, so I thought, who also had my contact and didn't even LMK. Barely been talking to people at work as a result. Shit left a foul taste in my mouth and I'm looking at my environment different. Fake. Am I blowing this up? ATAR for the way I'm handling this, or am I justified in my reaction?
Ita for not helping pay for my cousin's meal. I 28F went out for lunch with my mom 46, my uncle 36 and his son 11 yesterday. Uncle chose the place and insisting on everyone sharing a huge barbecue, even though my mom and I wanted to eat something else. Once the bill comes, I divide it by 4 and say that he should pay for himself and my cousin while my mom and I each pay for our own part. He gets angry at this and says that every adult should cover a third of the bill because my cousin obviously can't contribute. It's not the first time he's done it. My mom points out that she never made him or anyone else help pay for my meals when I was a kid, but uncle insists. I agree to play extra because I don't want to make a scene at the restaurant, but get angry because I'm expending a good amount of money on a food I'm not enthusiastic about. I tell my mom that I'm never going out to eat with him again. In fact, I had previously said that and only agreed to this lunch because it was supposed to be in a cheap restaurant, but uncle changed his mind about the place at the last minute. Uncle overhears and agrees to give us the money but gets angry and calls us selfish. For context, I'm a teacher, so I'm not exactly rolling in cash. My mom and my uncle are both better off than me financially, not rich or anything, but he could definitely cover half the bill. Ida?